The alien marketplace was once full of life, full of colors, full of music. But now it stood almost empty, the stalls broken, the ground covered in dust, the air heavy with silence. Shara, the alien mother, walked slowly through the broken paths, her arms holding a small child close to her chest. The child's skin pale, eyes heavy, breath weak. She tried to whisper comfort, but her throat was dry, her words cracked like broken glass. Around her, shadows of other aliens moved, some selling scraps, some begging, some just staring. Yet when their eyes fell on her, they turned away quickly, as if looking at her was shameful, as if she was already forgotten by the world. She stopped near a stall where stale bread was lying, its surface hard as stone. Her eyes begged more than her lips could, but the stall keeper shook his head sharply. "Not for you," he said, his voice cold, his face disgusted. Her child coughed, weakly, a sound that stabbed her heart. She tried again, whispering, "Please, only a small piece, my child." But the stall keeper stepped back, covering the food as if her touch would poison it. The mother lowered her head, shame pressing on her shoulders, her arms trembling as she tried to keep the child steady. Tears filled her eyes, but even her tears seemed unwanted in this place. The market felt cruel, its silence louder than noise. Everyone looked away, pretending she was invisible, abandoned, erased. And then, someone did not look away. A man stood near the broken fountain at the center of the market. Not tall, not rich, not powerful, just an ordinary human. His work clothes marked with stains, his hands rough from cleaning the floors of alien stations. His name was Daniel. He had finished his late shift, his tired body wanting rest. But his eyes caught the sight of the alien mother, the way she held her child, the way her lips trembled, the way no one cared. Something inside him froze, then burned. A memory of his own childhood came back, of standing in Earth's ruined streets, of waiting for someone to notice his hunger, of being ignored, of wishing one person would stop, just one. He walked closer, the sound of his boots against the broken tiles catching her attention. She lifted her eyes, afraid, expecting more rejection. But his face was different, not cruel, not cold. His eyes were warm, almost humanly stubborn. Daniel knelt down slowly, so he was at the same level as her and the child. He spoke gently. "Are you all right?" His words were simple, but in that market they sounded strange, like a forbidden language. The alien mother blinked, confused. Her lips opened, but no sound came. She could not remember the last time someone asked if she was all right. Her child, weak and trembling, whispered first, the voice soft, almost a ghost. "Hungry." The word hit Daniel like a stone in his chest. He reached into his work bag, pulling out a small wrapped loaf. It was his dinner, nothing special, but it was food, real food. He held it out toward them. Gasps came from the market. Aliens turned, their heads, whispers spreading like fire. "The human is giving food to her, to the abandoned one. Has he lost his mind?" The mother froze, her hands shaking. She wanted to reach, but fear held her back. She looked at him with wide eyes. "Why?" she managed to whisper, her voice weak. "Why would you help me?" Daniel looked at the child first, then at her, his jaw tight. "Because no one else will," he said firmly, his words heavy, simple, true. Her fingers touched the bread slowly, like it was a dream. The child's small hands grabbed it quickly, biting with desperate hunger. Crumbs falling, tears running down the mother's face as she watched her child eat for the first time in days. The whispers in the market grew sharper. Some laughed bitterly, some spat on the ground, some muttered curses. "He will regret it. Humans do not know our ways." She was erased for a reason. But Daniel did not move, his body solid, his eyes still on her. "You are not nothing," he said quietly, almost to himself. But the mother heard it, and her heart broke at the sound of kindness. The child leaned weakly against her, crumbs still on the lips, eyes slowly closing with relief. The mother clutched the child tightly, afraid the moment would vanish, afraid the human would walk away like all the rest. But Daniel stayed. He did not move away, his hand resting on the ground near hers, a silent promise that he would not turn his back. The market around them felt colder, sharper, more dangerous. Yet in that small space between one human and one abandoned alien mother, there was a spark of warmth, a spark that others hated, but a spark that refused to die. The mother lowered her head, whispering through her tears, "Thank you. Whoever you are." Daniel looked at her, his voice steady. "I am just someone who refuses to look away." And with those words, the silence of the empty market broke. Not with kindness, but with tension, with anger, with the start of something larger than any of them could imagine, because one human had dared to care, and the galaxy was watching. Daniel stood still in the center of the market, his hand empty now, the bread gone, the eyes of dozens of aliens burning into his back. But he did not look at them. He looked only at the mother and the child sitting in the dust. The mother tried to hide the loaf under her thin cloth, afraid someone might steal it, afraid someone might punish her. But Daniel shook his head, his voice calm. "Let him eat. No one will take it while I'm here." The words sounded strange in that place, a promise in a land where promises had no meaning. The mother's lips trembled, her eyes still wide. She could not believe a human, a simple worker, would stand against the crowd for her. The child chewed slowly now. Small bites, weak but alive, every movement like a fight between hunger and exhaustion. Daniel's chest tightened at the sight. He had seen starving animals before, but this was worse. This was a child who had done nothing wrong. A group of alien merchants nearby muttered loud enough for him to hear. "The human wastes food on the erased. How foolish. How shameful." Another one spat. "He will learn. The council will not forgive this." Daniel felt the heat of anger rise, but he stayed calm. He had learned long ago that anger without action was useless. He took a slow breath, then crouched lower so he was closer to the mother again. "What's your name?" he asked softly. The question hit her like a strike. She froze, her eyes darting around, her hands pulled the child closer, her voice broke. I have no name anymore," she whispered, her words heavy with shame. "They took it. Erased it." Daniel frowned, his brows pulling tight. He knew about this cruel alien law. He had heard it from others. Those who were cast out lost their names, their rights, their place. They became shadows walking among the living, no better than ghosts. He looked at her firmly. "I don't care what they took. I asked what you want to be called." Her eyes filled with tears, not because of pain, but because of confusion. No one had asked her what she wanted in a long time. Maybe never. She whispered brokenly, "Shara. That was my name before." Daniel nodded once, his voice steady. Then, "Shara it is." The simple acceptance shook her. Her hands tightened on the child, her lips pressed shut, trying to hold back a sob. For a moment she felt like a person again. Not a shadow, not a curse. But the whispers around them grew louder, more hostile. Some aliens began moving closer, circling, their faces twisted with disgust. One shouted, "Leave her, human. She is cursed. She is nothing. Do you want to share her fate?" Daniel stood up slowly, turning to face them, his jaw hard, his tired eyes sharp. "If kindness is a curse, then maybe you should be afraid of me." The crowd hissed, some backing away, others sneering. One merchant laughed bitterly. "He does not know the council will strip him too if he continues. Humans are too soft, too weak." But Daniel did not bend. He turned back to Shara, ignoring their voices. He reached again into his bag, pulling out a small bottle of water. He unscrewed the cap and offered it. Her hands shook as she took it. She held it first to the child's lips, letting him drink. Small sips, trembling hands. Then she drank herself, her throat moving quickly, tears sliding down her cheeks as the water touched her dry tongue. Daniel's mind went back to Earth again, to the time when he had been a boy sitting on the cracked streets of the old city, waiting for food trucks that rarely came, seeing his little sister cry from hunger. He remembered promising himself back then that if he ever saw someone suffer the same way, he would never walk past them. Never. That memory burned in him now, turning doubt into fire. He looked at the mother and the child, his decision already made. "Come with me," he said quietly. his voice like iron under the softness. Shara's head snapped up, her eyes wide with fear. No, I cannot. If they see me with you, they will punish you too. Daniel shook his head. They already hate me for helping. It changes nothing. But if you stay here, you and your child will die. Her lips trembled. Her eyes darted to the angry faces around them. She clutched her child tighter, torn between fear and hope, torn between death and risk. Daniel reached out his hand, not forcing, only offering, his palm open, his voice steady. Trust me. The child, too weak to stand, lifted his small hand. Touching Daniel's fingers, the mother gasped at the sight. The choice was being made for her. Slowly, with shaking hands, she placed her own hand into Daniel's, her skin rough, trembling, cold, but alive. The crowd hissed louder, voices sharp, curses thrown. But Daniel pulled her gently, guiding them away from the center of the market, away from the broken stalls, away from the cruel eyes. Every step felt like a war, every shadow felt like a threat, but he did not let go of her hand. He did not let fear win. Behind them, voices called, "You will regret this, human. The council will come for you both." Daniel did not answer. He just walked forward, his back straight, his grip firm, his heart steady. He had made his choice, and once Daniel made a choice, he did not turn back. The mother looked at him through her tears, her voice breaking. Why risk everything? Why for me? Daniel glanced at her, his tired eyes soft but strong. Because I know what it feels like to be nothing, and I swore I would never let it happen to someone else. And with those words, he led her into the shadows of the broken station, toward an uncertain future, but one where she was no longer alone. The corridors outside the market were darker, colder, empty, except for broken lamps and the hum of distant machines. Daniel walked carefully, his boots echoing softly, his hand still, holding Shara's as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. The child lay weak against her chest, his breathing shallow. Shara kept glancing behind them, every sound making her flinch, every shadow making her heart beat faster. She whispered, "They will come. They will follow. They will punish you." Her voice almost breaking. Daniel shook his head, his tone calm, steady. Let them try. But inside, his mind raced. He knew the council's men would not forgive. He knew whispers traveled fast in this station, but fear would not make him. Stop, not tonight. He led them through a side tunnel, a place most avoided, where the smell of rust and oil filled the air, where broken pipes dripped water slowly, the floor stained and wet. Shara coughed at the smell, but she kept following because she had no other choice. Finally, Daniel stopped at a large metal door. With faded paint, he pulled a keycard from his pocket, swiped it. The door hissed open with a groan, revealing a small storage room inside. It was not much, only crates stacked to the walls, a broken fan humming weakly, a single light buzzing. But to Shara, it looked like a palace, compared to the dust and hatred outside. Daniel guided them in, closing the door firmly behind, locking it twice, then he turned, watching Shara sink slowly to the ground, her child still pressed close, her arms shaking from exhaustion. "You can rest here," Daniel said quietly, setting his bag down, pulling out a blanket, worn but clean. He spread it on the floor near the crates. "It's not soft, but it's warm." Shara stared at him, her eyes shining with suspicion, confusion, fear. "Why?" she whispered again, the same question she had asked before. "Why do you do this for me, for us? You gain nothing, only danger." Daniel crouched down across from her, his face lit faintly by the buzzing light. He shrugged. "I don't do it for gain. I do it because you need it, and I can't pretend I didn't see you." Shara pressed her lips together, her tears falling silently as she lowered her child onto the blanket, covering him gently. The boy curled up, eating the last crumbs of the bread, his eyelids heavy, his breathing slower but calmer. Daniel pulled a small container from the crate. It had some leftover rice and beans from his shift. He placed it near Shara. Eat. Both of you need strength. She stared at the food as if it were gold, but she pushed it back slightly, shaking her head. No, my child first always. Daniel's jaw tightened. He pushed it back firmly toward her. Your child will need his mother strong. Don't forget that. Her lips trembled, then she nodded weakly, taking a small bite, her body shaking with hunger and relief. For a while, silence filled the room, only the sound of the child breathing and the soft hum of the fan. But outside that silence, beyond the locked door, danger was growing. Daniel could almost hear the whispers of the market chasing him, voices spreading fast. The human took her. The council will know. The guards will come. He leaned back against a crate, running a tired hand over his face, his thoughts heavy. He had broken no law in human terms, but here, among alien laws, compassion itself was a crime. Shara broke the silence, her voice low. You don't understand what they will do. They will not just punish you, they will erase you like me. They will take your name, your rights, everything. You will become a shadow too. Daniel looked at her, his eyes calm, but inside her words cut deep. He thought of Earth again, of how names and papers had once meant survival. He thought of how easily the powerful crushed the weak, how easy it was to erase someone's existence. He answered quietly, Then let them try. I've lived through worse. Shara stared at him, her heart pounding. She had expected him to break, to regret, to leave her here, but instead he spoke with iron, his calmness stronger than her fear. The child stirred softly, whispering half asleep. Mama, safe? Shara stroked his hair, tears falling again, her voice trembling. Yes, safe. For now. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, listening to that word. Safe. He knew it was temporary, fragile, but it was more than the boy had yesterday. The night stretched on, heavy with silence. The storage room small but filled with something new, something that had not existed for Shara in a long time. Hope. Yet hope was dangerous. It attracted enemies like light drew insects. Already Daniel could imagine the council guards searching. Already he could hear the heavy steps coming for him, but he did not tell Shara that. Instead, he stood pulling another crate to block the door, securing it as best as he could, his voice calm. Sleep, I'll keep watch. Shara looked at him. With wide eyes, disbelief mixing with gratitude, she whispered, No one has ever stayed for me before. Daniel gave a small smile, tired but warm. Then maybe it's time someone did. Shara curled around her child, holding him close, her body relaxing slowly, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to close them. Daniel leaned against the wall, his eyes sharp on the door, his body ready. He did not sleep. He did not dare. Because he knew the shadows outside were moving. He knew tomorrow would not be kind. But for tonight, in the shelter of shadows, an abandoned mother and her child were not alone, and one human had drawn a line the galaxy would not forget. Morning came slowly in the broken station, light leaking through cracked vents, painting the storage room in faint gold. Shara woke first, her arms stiff from holding her child through the night, her eyes swollen from tears, but for the first time in weeks her heart had beaten in peace for a few hours. Daniel was still awake, leaning against the wall, his eyes red but sharp. He had not moved all night, his hand resting near, a small tool he carried, not a weapon, just something to use if the door opened without his welcome. When Shara whispered, You did not sleep, he shook his head, answering simply, Didn't need to. But his body told a different truth. Tired lines carved deep into his face. Before either could speak again, a loud knock hit the door, sharp and heavy. Shara froze instantly, pulling her child closer, her body trembling. Daniel's head lifted, his eyes narrowing. Another knock followed, this one slower, almost calm. Then a voice spoke through the metal, deep, commanding, human. Open the door. The elders request your presence. Shara's lips parted in fear. She shook her head quickly, whispering, No, no, it's them, the council's messengers. If you go, they will strip you. They will take everything. Daniel stood slowly, his face unreadable, his voice steady. If I don't go, they'll break the door anyway. Shara grabbed his wrist, her grip desperate, her eyes wet. Please don't. They erased me. They will erase you too. You will become nothing. Daniel looked down at her hand holding him, then at her child sleeping against her shoulder, his voice low but firm. Better nothing than a man who walks away. He gently removed her hand, then unlocked the door. Outside stood 3 aliens in dark robes, their skin marked with glowing lines of authority, their eyes cold. Behind them the hallway seemed heavier, as if silence itself bent to their will. The tallest elder spoke first, his voice like iron. Human Daniel, you broke custom. You touched the erased. You gave food, water, protection. Do you understand the crime? Daniel met his eyes without flinching. The crime is leaving a mother and child to die in the dirt. The elder's jaw tightened. The second elder hissed softly. Your words are dangerous, your tongue sharp for a worker. The first raised a hand, silencing the others. You are summoned to stand before the council. They will decide if your actions bring punishment or exile. Shara gasped softly, her arms pulling her child tighter, her eyes pleading with Daniel not to go. But he stepped forward without hesitation, his boots heavy on the floor, his voice calm. Fine. Take me. The elders turned, leading him through the corridors, their robes brushing the dust. Daniel followed, his back straight, his heart steady. Though he knew he was walking into the lion's den, they reached the council chamber, a wide circular hall carved from stone and steel, alien symbols glowing faintly on the walls. In the center stood the seats of the elders, high and cold, like thrones of judgment. Dozens of aliens filled the circle, merchants, guards, watchers, all eager to see the human who dared to break their laws, whispers echoed. That's him, the janitor, the fool who gave bread to the erased. Daniel stood alone in the center, the elder's eyes burning down on him. The first elder raised, his staff, the sound echoing through the hall. Daniel of Earth, you stand accused of breaking sacred order, do you admit it? Daniel's voice carried clear, strong, despite the weight of eyes. I admit I fed a hungry child and his mother. Yes. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The second elder slammed a hand against his seat. You mock us. She is erased, her name struck. She is nothing, yet you gave her your food, your water, your protection. Daniel's jaw clenched, his words sharp. If she is nothing, then why do her tears fall like yours? Why does her child breathe the same air as yours? You erase with ink and words, but you cannot erase the truth. She is alive. The chamber erupted in whispers, some angry, some shaken. The third elder leaned forward, his voice low but dangerous. You dare lecture us, human? You are an outsider, your people are weak, desperate, and yet you stand against the council? Daniel's voice did not shake. Maybe my people are weak, maybe we've been desperate, but weakness teaches you the value of mercy, and desperation teaches you to fight for it. The elders fell silent for a long moment, the chamber heavy with tension. Finally, the first elder spoke again, his voice sharp. We should strip you, human, erase you as we erased her, but you are protected by Earth's treaty. Your name cannot be taken, the second elder hissed. Then let him be punished another way. Let him be warned. The first elder nodded slowly, his eyes cold. Human, hear this warning. If you continue to protect the erased, if you try to give her your name, your rights, your law, then you will face exile, cast out from this station. No human will defend you, no alien will shelter you. Do you understand? Daniel stood in silence for a long moment, then he spoke, calm but steady. I understand. The first elder slammed the staff again. Then go. And remember, compassion has a price. Daniel turned, his steps heavy, but his heart steady. As he walked back through the crowd, he caught sight of Shara standing at the far end of the hall, her eyes wide, wet with tears, fear etched deep into her face. He gave her a small nod, quiet but strong, a promise in silence. I will not abandon you. And as he left the chamber, the whispers followed, sharper, louder, the galaxy watching, waiting for the next step, because now the council had drawn a line, and Daniel had already chosen which side he stood on. The storage room felt smaller that night, heavy with silence, heavy with fear. Shara sat with her child pressed against her chest, her eyes still red from crying after Daniel had returned. From the council chamber, she had asked him a dozen times what they said, but his answers were always short, calm, almost careless. "They warned me," he said. "They threatened exile." Shara shook her head each time, whispering, "You should leave me. Leave us. Save yourself." Her words filled with shame. "We are not worth your life." But Daniel never answered that part. He only brought her more food from his small supplies, more water, more warmth. Tonight, the child slept deeply, his chest rising steady, his lips no longer cracked from hunger. Daniel watched the boy for a long moment, then turned to Shara, his voice low. "You said once your name was Shara. Was it given to you at birth?" Her eyes widened, she hesitated, then nodded softly. "Yes, it was my mother's gift to me, but the council erased it. They erased me." Daniel leaned closer, his eyes steady. "Then I will give it back." Her lips parted in shock, her hands tightening on her child, her voice trembling. "No, you can't. They warned you. They will exile you. They will destroy you. Don't speak such things." Daniel shook his head, calm but firm. "Listen to me. They cannot erase what I decide to protect. They can't touch what I give freely." He reached into his bag and pulled out a small slate, a human device connected to the interstellar registry, the place where contracts, names, and rights were logged across the colonies. Shara gasped, her hands covering her mouth. "No, no, don't. If you link me to you, if you give me your name, they will never forgive it. They will come for you." Daniel's voice was steady, but fire burned beneath his words. "They already hate me. But right now, you and your child have nothing. No papers, no rights, no safety. Anyone can harm you, anyone can throw you out, and no law will stop them. If I sign this, if I put your name under mine, then you are protected. You are family." Her tears fell fast now, her voice breaking. "Family? Why would you do that for me? I am not your blood, I am not your kind." Daniel's hand rested on the slate, his jaw tight, his words heavy. "Because family isn't just blood. Family is who you choose not to abandon." Shara shook her head wildly, fear battling hope inside her, her voice almost a scream. "You don't understand. They will destroy you. They will strip you of work, of home, of safety." Daniel's eyes softened, but his tone was like iron. "I've lived without all those before. I can live without them again. But I will not live, knowing I turned away when I could have saved you." He pressed his thumb to the slate, the screen glowing faint blue, the registry page opening, his name shining there. Daniel R. Carter, worker class, human treaty citizen. He typed carefully, then turned the slate to her. Her breath caught when she saw the words appear below his. Shara, adopted family under the name of Daniel Carter. Her hands shook violently, her tears dripping onto the slate. She covered her face, sobbing quietly. "You gave me more than food, more than water. You gave me back a life." The child stirred at the sound of her tears, his small voice whispering, "Mama?" Shara bent low, kissing his forehead, whispering back, "We are safe now. Because of him." Her eyes turning toward Daniel, shining with a mix of gratitude and disbelief. But outside the storage room, not everyone shared that feeling. Already, words spread like fire, whispers running through corridors. The human gave her his name. He broke the law. He challenges the council. Some spoke with anger, some with fear, some with curiosity, but all agreed. This act could not be ignored. By the next morning, guards had gathered in groups. Merchants spat curses in the halls, and eyes followed Daniel wherever he walked. Hatred burning, Shara felt it too. She held her child tighter, whispering, "They will punish you for this. They will punish us all." Daniel met her eyes, his voice calm. "Let them try." Later that day, 3 guards stormed into his work sector, pulling him roughly by the arm, their voices sharp. "You dare give your name to the erased? You insult the council. You insult." "The order!" Daniel did not resist, his voice calm but cold. "I did what was right. You can't erase that." The guards dragged him into the open market, the same place where he had first seen Shara, the same broken stalls, the same eyes watching. This time the crowd was larger, whispers sharper, shouts louder. Exile him! Strip him! Cast him out! Shara stood at the edge, clutching her child, her body trembling, tears streaming. She wanted to scream, to beg, but fear silenced her. The guards shoved Daniel forward, announcing, he gave the erased a name. He broke sacred law. His crime is compassion. What say the council? Gasps ran through the market as the elders stepped into the open, their robes flowing, their faces cold. The first elder's voice booming, Human Daniel Carter, you tied your name to the erased, you broke the law, you brought shame upon this station. Do you deny it? Daniel's voice carried strong, steady. No, I do not deny it. I gave her my name, and I would do it again. The crowd erupted, some with fury, some with shock, but in the noise, one thing became clear. Daniel had drawn a line no one could erase, and now the galaxy would have to decide if it feared his defiance or if it would follow his example. The council chamber was fuller than Daniel had ever seen, every seat taken, every shadow filled with whispering voices, merchants, guards, common workers, all drawn by the storm his act had created. Shara stood near the back, clutching her child to her chest, her face pale, her eyes full of fear. She wanted to run, to hide, but her legs would not move. Her heart told her she could not leave him alone. Not now. Daniel stood in the center, his wrists bound with a metal clasp, not because he had resisted, but because the guards wanted the crowd to see him as a criminal, a warning. The first elder raised his staff, the sound echoing like thunder. The hall fell silent. Daniel Carter, you have broken sacred law. You gave your name to one who was erased. You tied her to you as family. Do you understand what you have done? Daniel lifted his head, his eyes steady, his voice calm. Yes, I gave her my name. I gave her back her dignity. That is all I did. Gasps rippled through the crowd, some voices hissing, shameful, while others whispered, brave. The tension in the chamber grew heavier. The second elder leaned forward, his face twisted with anger. You speak as if it is nothing. Do you know why we erase? Do you know the weight of our law? We erase those who betray us, those who dishonor our people. She is nothing, because she earned nothing. Shara flinched at the words, her tears falling silently, but Daniel did not. Look away, he answered firmly. I don't care what crime you claim. I saw a mother and child starving. I saw life. I saw need, and I acted. If that is dishonor, then I stand guilty. The crowd erupted again, shouts clashing, voices rising, some demanding exile, some muttering doubt. The elders slammed their staffs until silence returned. The third elder's voice cut sharp. You are human, outsider, weak. You cannot judge us. You cannot change our law with your pity. Daniel's jaw tightened, his words sharp. Weak? Maybe. Outsider? Yes. But weakness taught my people something your strength never did. Mercy. And pity? Pity saves lives. It saved hers. He turned his head, his eyes finding Shara in the back, his voice rising. You call her erased. I call her Shara. You call her cursed. I call her mother. You see nothing. I see family. The chamber fell into stunned silence, the words heavy, dangerous, powerful. The first elder stood, his face like stone. You shame this chamber with your defiance. You claim family where none exists. You tie your human pride to our shame. For this we judge you. The crowd leaned forward, waiting, hearts racing, but before the sentence could fall, Shara moved, her feet carrying her forward despite her fear, her arms shaking as she stepped into the open circle, clutching her child. Gasps. Erupted guards moved to stop her, but she cried out, her voice breaking. Stop, you cannot erase his truth. The chamber froze at the sound, her voice filled with a strength no one expected, her tears running down her face as she shouted again. He saved me. He saved my child. When all of you turned away, when all of you called me nothing. He gave me a name, he gave me hope, he gave me life. Her child stirred in her arms, his small voice whispering, "Safe. With him." The hall rippled with shock. Some aliens lowered their heads, unable to meet her gaze. Others whispered, uneasily. The second elder hissed, "Silence her. She is erased. She cannot speak here." But Daniel's voice thundered over theirs. "You erased her. You erased her voice, her rights, her dignity. But you cannot erase her truth. And you cannot erase mine." The hall trembled with noise. A storm of voices clashing, guards moving, but the council hesitated, their staffs trembling, their eyes unsettled. For the first time, the power of their silence cracked. The first elder slammed his staff hard, the sound ringing sharp. "Enough! This human thinks compassion is stronger than law. This human thinks his name is stronger than our judgment. Then let us test it." He raised his staff high, his voice echoing, "We call the vote of exile. Let this station decide, does Daniel Carter remain or does he walk the void cast out forever?" The chamber gasped, whispers rushing like fire. A vote of exile had not been called in years. It was rare, dangerous, final. Shara's knees weakened, her arms shaking as she held her child tighter, tears spilling. "No, no, please." She whispered, her heart breaking. Daniel stood tall, his eyes sweeping the crowd, his voice calm but strong. "Do what you will. Exile me, strip me, cast me out. But remember this. If compassion is a crime, then you are already guilty of more than I could ever be." The hall roared, voices colliding, some shouting for exile, some whispering in doubt. The elders staring down, their power suddenly fragile, and in that storm of judgment, one thing became clear. The trial was not just about Daniel anymore. It was about what kind of people the galaxy chose to be. Would they choose fear, or would they choose mercy? The answer was coming, and every heart in the chamber felt the weight of it. The chamber was alive with noise, voices clashing like thunder. Some cried for Daniel's exile, others whispered in uneasy tones. The air felt heavy, sharp, filled with tension that could break at any moment. Shara held her child close, her heart racing, every beat louder than the shouts. She wanted to scream, to beg, but she had no strength left, only hope that somehow the truth would win. Daniel stood, tall in the center, his wrists still bound, but his back straight, his head high. His voice had already shaken the hall, yet he did not look proud, only steady, calm, like a man who had made peace with his choice. The first elder raised his staff, his deep voice echoing, "The vote begins. Step forward, speak your will. Shall the human be exiled for his crime of compassion?" The crowd moved uneasily, one by one. Voices were raised, some cold, "Exile him," others softer, "Let him stay." The sound grew, a storm of division. For every merchant who shouted, "He shamed us," there was a worker who whispered, "He gave life." For every guard who spat, "He broke law," there was a young voice that said, "He gave hope." The council grew restless, their power shaken, the division of their people clear. Then, something unexpected happened. An old alien woman, bent with age, stepped forward from the crowd, her voice rough but loud. "I was there. I saw the mother beg for food. I turned away. He did not. Tell me, elders, who carries more honor, the one who obeys silence, or the one who lifts the fallen?" The chamber fell quiet for a moment, her words cutting deeper than any staff. More, voices rose, not just whispers, but louder, stronger. "The human is right. Mercy is not weakness. We cannot erase what he has done." Shara's tears fell as she clutched her child, her lips whispering prayers she had long forgotten. The elders slammed their staffs, trying to restore control. The first elder's face grew dark. "Enough! The law is clear. He gave his name to—" An erased one. He tied himself to shame. He must be cast out. Daniel lifted his head, his voice cutting through the noise. "Then cast me out. But know this, you cannot erase what has already been written. I gave her my name, I gave her my family, and no exile will take that away." The crowd stirred again, the words spreading like fire. Family. Family. He gave her family. And in that moment, something shifted. Not in the council, but in the people. The whispers turned into a wave, voices rising louder, stronger, breaking fear. Let him stay. He speaks truth. We will not erase him. The elders looked shaken for the first time, their power slipping. The first elder slammed his staff again, his voice sharp. Silence! The law! But another voice cut through, strong, fierce, unexpected. It was Shara, her body trembling but her voice rising, carrying across the chamber. If you exile him, then exile me too. Exile us all because we are his family now. The chamber gasped, guards froze, eyes widened. Her child clung to her, whispering, Mama. But she stood tall, tears streaming down her face. You erased me once. You called me nothing. But he gave me a name, he gave me life, and if you punish him for that, then I will share his fate. Her words struck like lightning. The crowd exploded, shouts and cries mixing, not of anger now, but of unity, of defiance. The people who had stayed silent too long were speaking. The elders tried to hold control, but their voices were drowned. The chamber no longer listened to them, it listened to the people. Finally, the first elder lowered his staff, his face cold, but his voice resigned. Very well. The vote stands divided. We will not exile the human, but remember this, Daniel Carter, your name protects her now. If she falls, you fall. If she dishonors, you dishonor. Daniel's voice answered firm, steady. Then I will carry her honor as my own. The crowd erupted in cheers, not all, but enough to shake the walls. The guards stepped back uncertain. The trial ended not by law, but by will. Shara ran forward, her child in her arms, falling to her knees before Daniel, her tears spilling freely. You stayed, you fought, you gave me more than I ever dreamed. Daniel bent low, lifting her gently, his hands steady on her shoulders, his words soft but strong. You're not nothing anymore. You never were. You're family now. Her child clung to Daniel's arm, whispering tiredly, Papa? Shara gasped, her tears falling faster, but Daniel only smiled faintly, his voice quiet. If that's what he wants to call me, then yes. The market that once turned away now watched differently, the whispers of hatred replaced by whispers of awe, of change. From that day forward, the alien mother was no longer erased, her child no longer nameless. They carried the name Daniel had, given not just on papers but in the hearts of those who had witnessed. One human had stood against a galaxy's silence, and won not by power, not by wealth, but by refusing to look away. And in the end, a family was forged, not by blood, not by race, but by choice, by compassion, by courage. A family that would remind the galaxy forever, humanity's greatest weapon was not strength but the refusal to abandon those in need.